Another tubey thing. I better give Mr. Saltwater Tank a call.
Oh, hey Jimmy, I was just, I'm in the middle of a double regression statistical analysis of my tank data over the past 2 years to identify positive and negative trends in my tank. Would you like me to share the data with you? Well, the more I'm informed about my tank, the more I can help you with your tank.
Dude, come on. What are you even talking about? I just did the same thing. I'm already done. What's taking you?
What the data set is what, 3 data points versus mine that's like 700? I'm no statistician, you know, that big word, but I think they would tell me that a bigger data set's better. But I mean, okay, all right, fine. You didn't call me to talk about regression of analysis of data. What about it? Okay, what?
I've got these tubes. They look really cool. I thought they'd look awesome on my credenza next to my lava lamp.
Lava lamp?
Yeah, you know, lava lamps. Those are cool. This would be a cool lava lamp, sort of.
I hope you're not putting GFO in that thing.
I don't even know what it is, but I got GFO.
We talked about it last week. Did you even watch last week? Did you pay attention during our filming?
Yeah, I totally did. But the thing about GFO was it was about phosphate, and I'm at 0. So I don't think I'm ready to do the GFO yet in my media reactor.
So proud. So proud.
However, I do have activated carbon. I know a little bit about this because my filters in my freshwater tank I've used activated carbon for 20-something years. And what I have noticed is when I'm using it, my water looks more clear.
Yes.
Help me out with this tube thing for my activated carbon. Is that what it's going to do? It's going to clear my water up?
Yes. And you've hit a couple things, the nails right on the head to begin with. Number one, we're going to put it in a media reactor. We'll talk about why in a minute. And number two, since we don't have any phosphates, we're not using GFO, but we are going to start activated carbon because carbon does nothing for nutrients. It's not going to help with your phosphates. It's not going to help with your nitrates. It's going to do exactly what you said, which is polish the water and make it look really good. So it's going to take that yellowish tinge out of your water, that tannins, that's what causes that, and then something called phenols, which is things that make your water stink. So it's going to make your tank look really clear, and if it does stink, which it shouldn't, it's going to make it not stinky. The other thing that activated carbon is going to do for you is it's going to pull out any nasties in your tank. So any chlorine, chloramines, toxic stuff, it's going to grab that out of your tank's water. So it's a good thing to use, and you don't have to wait until you have a nutrient problem to use activated carbon because it's going to do nothing for your nutrients.
So let me ask you this. We were talking about taking out chlorine or whatever else. Activated carbon will help with that. But didn't my RODI unit do that when I made water to put in there?
Yes, that's why you have 2 carbon blocks in your RODI unit, is to pull out chlorine, chloramines, and other impurities in your tap water.
Okay, I already said this thing looks sweet because it looks like my lava lamp, but it's like another thing I need to put down in my sump. And you know, the activated carbon in my freshwater just goes on the back filter. How does this thing work? Why do I need this?
The reason you can have that media reactor in your saltwater tank and the reason you're using activated carbon in that filter and that hang-on back filter in your freshwater tank, the reason it's the same, and that's because that's the way to get the maximum efficiency out of that activated carbon. A lot of people just take activated carbon, they put it in a bag, tie the bag shut, and they throw it in the corner of the sump, or worse, they put it down in a filter sock, which when you do that, water's crashing onto it, you can get grinding and then get that dust in your tank, which some people think can cause HLE. So if we just put the media in a bag and throw it in your sump, water's not going to force its way through that. It's just going to roll right around it. So any activated carbon that's on the outside of that bag is going to be in contact with the water. The stuff that's in the inside really isn't. It's just not even getting exposed to it, so you're not getting very good use out of that whole bag of activated carbon. With your hang-on back filter in your freshwater tank, water has to flow through the media. It's doing that in that little media pad. So when it does that, it's wrapping all around the media. You're getting maximum surface area of the media in contact with the water in your tank, which means you're getting maximum efficiency out of your media. Same thing's going to happen with that media reactor. It's got a base, it's got a pump in it for that NIOS torque reactor. It's going to pump water through the media to get the maximum contact time and surface area contact, so that media is as efficient as possible. There's all kinds of media reactors. I use a different model on my tank, but the concept is the same. It's called a fluidized media reactor. We want to push water through the media to get maximum surface area and contact time with the media.
Okay, Mr. Saltwater Tank, what are some guidelines? What are your suggestions for some guidelines for using activated carbon?
So a couple things. One, we want to use a high grade of carbon, and that's the stuff that we sell here at SaltwaterAquarium.com. We only use the good stuff. Number two is you want to rinse the activated carbon before it gets into your tank. Carbon, I mean, any media, you go to ship it around, it's going to grind, it's going to have some dust. We want to get that out of our tank. So you want to rinse it. Good quality carbon, rinse it out before you get it in there. The other piece of this is you don't want it to tumble. So when you adjust the flow on that torque reactor and you're looking at the media, you don't want to see it grinding past one another and flipping out the top or turning like this. You want low flow through activated carbon, so much so that the carbon, the media, you can look at it, it doesn't move. You may feel like there's not much water coming through it. That's okay. It's better if it's lower flow than faster flow.
Okay, sorry I keep mentioning my freshwater tank because that's the only reference I have with carbon. But in my, in those, the carbon's already in little filters and they get dirty and then I either rinse them out or I throw them out. How often do I have to change this? Pretty often, or how do I know when to change it?
So a couple of things. One, if the flow through the media, through the activated carbon is slower, and you look at it, you're like, oh, it's not much water coming out of this now when you haven't adjusted the pump rate, that's telling you that it's going to get things clogged up in there. Because like, look, the water that's coming past your filter socks is cleaner than the water coming out of your tank, but it's not like it's perfectly clear and there's no amount of detritus in there. So in time, some detritus is going to get caught in that activated carbon. It's going to gum up. And this is one thing that I do to make it last a little longer is I will crank up the flow just for a second to kind of backwash, so to speak, push a lot of media through that activated carbon, then it blows some of that detritus stuff out and get it out of the media reactor. It's also going to prevent channeling in that media, because in time as the media gets gummed up with detritus and other organics that it grabs, water is going to find the easiest way through the media. And if you look at it, you can see where like water is coming through almost like a river or a channel. When you blow out the media by pushing more flow through it, you're going to break up all those channels and then you're going to get fresh media in contact with new water because you've gotten rid of the easy way for the water to get out. But then once you've done that, like I like to do that once a week, just going to blow out that media. How often should you plan on changing the media? Because I like to do things on a schedule. There's a give and take. Your tank has low bio load, so you can probably get by with once a month. Some of this is just looking at it and seeing. With my tank, it has a heavy bio load, maybe too heavy, but that's a different story. I change out my activated carbon every 2 to 3 weeks. That way I know it's fresh, because when the carbon gets clogged up with particles that it grabs and organics, that's part of its job. That's not a bad thing. It's not as efficient. Now, there's a catch with this. Some people will say, well, activated carbon will leach that stuff back into your tank. That's not true. That won't happen. The other piece of this, people will say, well, once it's clogged up, take it out of your tank, put it in the oven, and you can recharge it. Also not true. The way activated carbon is made activated, it's baked at a high pressure and high temperature. You can't achieve that in your house oven, so don't worry about recharging it. Once it's clogged up, you feel like it's exhausted, just throw it away, put in new media, and you're good to go from there. So I like to do things on a schedule. That way it's consistent for me and it's consistent for the tank. Consistency goes a long way with your saltwater aquarium. So look, for now, plan on it once a month, once a week. When you're cleaning out your protein skimmer cup, just grab that reactor, crank up the flow for a second, blow it out, and then turn it back down so we don't have that activated carbon tumbling.
Yeah, I kind of went down a rabbit hole when I got these things the other day online, and I saw something called HLE that using activated carbon could cause that with fish. What's that all about?
So head and lateral line erosion, you see that with fish that have looks like holes in their head, or their skin is peeled off on their head and then down their lateral line on their body. So we say it's a disease, but it's not like a parasitic type thing. We don't really know what caused it. There's all kinds of theories. And there was a study done once that indicated activated carbon can cause HLLE. The thing about the study was it wasn't a very high quality study. They used poor grade carbon. It had a lot of dust, which is what we think causes that HLLE. So I've used activated carbon in tanks for years and years and years. I've had fish with HLLE in tanks that are running activated carbon. And let me back up. They had the HLLE before I ran the carbon in the tank, before they got to me. They were in a tank with activated carbon and the HLLE went away. So if you use activated carbon correctly, which we'll talk about that in a minute, I do not have any concerns about HLLE and activated carbon. If you see a fish starting to develop HLLE and you have activated carbon, if you want to pull the carbon off just as a precautionary step, you can, but I would not point a finger. I would not have any concerns about using activated carbon and HLE problems with your fish.
You know, I'm excited to have a hobby like this that my wife really enjoys, because, you know, the sports car thing, I was really worried about spending money racing sports cars. It's a crazy hobby. But, you know, I brought her to the track, and then she fell in love with driving the sports car on the track. And this has turned out to be the same thing. I mean, 32 years of marriage, and this woman just keeps getting cooler. Cooler? I didn't know I could love her more, but now she loves the racing the car and the saltwater aquarium. So I'm totally happy.
I gotta go.
Happy wife, happy life.
Happy reefing, in terms of saltwater aquarium, wife, happy life. How's that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got the sports car, Jimmy. Let's see a photo of the wrap you put on your car, because it's super unique.
Yeah, it's Lightning McQueen. So Lightning McQueen is from the Disney Pixar Cars. And my wife, the other part of the story is my wife actually worked as a character attendant at Walt Disney World. We both worked at Disney. And so she used to work with Lightning McQueen, and I wanted to do something that looked like a race car. What's the coolest race car? Well, Lightning McQueen's cool.
It's the world's fastest racing machine.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Some of the Porsche guys don't like it, but I think it's rad.
Haters, man. Haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
Go get some activated carbon in that thing. Let me know what kind of difference it makes in your tank, and we'll see you next week with new fish.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Mr. Saltwater Tank.